The city of Vincent is a vibrant and diverse community located in Perth that offers an abundance of retail, entertainment, and recreational opportunities. Established in 1994 and encompassing 11 square kilometers, the city has nearly 40,000 residents. Cybercrime and ransomware attacks are increasing in frequency and sophistication, which puts government record-keeping, financial management, and residential services at risk. When a state government audit identified backup and DR limitations in the city's IT infrastructure, the city turned those limitations into opportunities. With Veeam and Focus Networks, the City of Vincent was able to resolve each limitation listed in the state government audit report by delivering comprehensive data protection and definitive SLAs for backup, archive, and recovery. They also facilitate compliance with the State Records Act and the 32110 rule. Next, Veeam and Focus Networks will also extend data protection to Microsoft Office 365 as the city transitions to the cloud. The City of Vincent now complies with Western Australia's State of Records Act and is protected against ransomware with Veeam. Find out more about how you can also protect your organization from cybersecurity threats and attacks.
Hello and welcome to this Veeam webinar. Today we're going to be talking about all things ransomware and security. My name is Tim Marie and I'm a Veeam Senior Systems Engineer, and I'm joined by my colleague Nathan Goss, who's also a Veeam Systems Engineer. So the agenda for today is we've got a set of slides here that I'll run you through just to give you an overview and sense of the features and functions that we have available in our platform as it relates to security and ransomware. And then Nathan's going to be running you through a bunch of live demos where we've got a simulated ransomware attack that he's going to execute on a virtual machine and then show you how we can recover with the Veeam features to get you back up and running. And the areas that we're going to be focusing on today is how we can detect, prevent, and obviously restore from a ransomware attack if it does occur. I just wanted to first introduce you to what we call the Veeam Cloud Data Management Platform. You may know Veeam in the past as a virtual backup provider. So we've provided data protection services for VMware and Hyper-V. But as time has progressed, we've started to support new workloads, such as physical servers, Windows and Linux. We even also support Unix-based systems as well, so Solaris and AIX. But again, as time has progressed and with customers making the migration to the cloud, we now provide native protection of those workloads too. So we have native solutions that can protect AWS EC2, for example, Azure, and also GCP. We also even support SaaS-based applications as well. So we support Microsoft Office 365 data and all the various data sets within that ecosystem. We also support native containers as well. So we support and provide backup for native container-based workloads such as Kubernetes. But I guess from a backup perspective or from a Veeam perspective, backup and recovery is our core capability, but we also provide other use cases as well, such as monitoring and analytics, disaster recovery orchestration, data reuse as well. So I guess in summary, it doesn't really matter where your data sits, whether your data be in your data center and your applications in that data center, or if you have data in the cloud, in SaaS, public cloud, for example. From a Veeam perspective, you can be confident that you have a solution to protect your data, doesn't matter where it resides. Just wanted to talk about now what we call the Essential 8. Now, this isn't a Veeam thing. It's more of an industry standard as it relates to security and making sure that your environment is locked down and hardened. The first piece is around preventing malware. And there's a number of ways you can obviously stop an attack from occurring and infiltrating your network. And the first one is around making sure that your applications or there's application control in place, making sure users can only access those applications based on their requirements, making sure that those applications are patched and also kept up to date so that there's no vulnerabilities in your applications. Also making sure that your applications are hardened as well. If an attack does take place, you obviously want to try and limit the surface of the attack and what they have access to. So there's a number of ways you can do that by restricting admin privileges. making sure that your virtual machines and your operating systems are also kept up to date, again, to reduce those vulnerabilities, and also introducing multi-factor authentication. And the last one is around data recovery. And this is where Veeam comes in, because we provide data backup and data recovery of your data and applications. And obviously, we take regular backup of your systems. We back them up to backup storage so that they can be recovered when you need to do so. And this is a key part and key element of the Essential 8 framework to make sure that if an attack does occur, such as a cyber attack or ransomware attack, that you can use Veeam to get you back up and running and reduce your downtime and not have to pay ransom. Just wanted to delve a bit deeper into some of the 3 key areas where we can help you around ransomware and recovering if an attack does take place in your environment. So the first one is around detection. So we can monitor your infrastructures, your virtual infrastructures, VMware, Hyper-V, your physical servers, and we can monitor for CPU and memory changes. So when you think about it, a ransomware attack, what it does, it encrypts your file system. And when it encrypts your file system, you're generally going to see a peak in CPU, memory, disk I/O, network, etc. And from a Veeam perspective, we can pick up these anomalies and suspicious behavior to notify operations teams and say, hey, something could be wrong here. Check out this virtual machine. So that's what we can do from a detection point of view. From a prevention, so if an attack does infiltrate your network or ransomware does execute, the last thing that you want to do is for that ransomware attack to encrypt your backups, because as you may know, backup is your last line of defense. If an incident, whether it be cyber, whether it be a disaster, you want to make sure that your backups are protected so that you can recover and get you back up and running, reduce your downtime, etc. And there's a number of ways we can help you in that area. And the first one is what we call 3-2-1 backup. 3-2-1 backup dictates that you've got 3 copies of your data. 2 of those copies is your backup copy. 1 of those is your production copy. And 1 of those backup copies is sent offsite. So you've got some redundancy there as it relates to your backup copies and your data. The next one is around sure backup. So sure backup provides and gives you the ability to test your backups for recovery verification. This could be due to compliance reasons. It could be just for that you have confidence in your backups that you can recover when you need to do so. It could be for, again, compliance-based reasons. And this can be fully automated. You can test your backups at any point in time. And the third and probably the most important one around prevention is what we call immutability. Immutability means that your data, your backup data, can't be encrypted by ransomware. It can't be modified. It can't be encrypted. So this is a key feature that we have in our platform to make sure that if an attack does take place, you don't have to pay ransom. You just recover your systems back before the attack occurred. And Nathan's going to be showing you the various demos around instant restore, etc. And also the last one is around restore, data restore. That's obviously the reason why you back up in the first place, is to restore when you need to do so based on an incident, which could be a ransomware event. So we provide full VM restores. We do instant recovery as well, which is a shorter restoration time. And Nathan's going to be showing this feature. We also do database instant restore for SQL and Oracle based enterprise applications. We also provide granular file and application granular restore as well. And the last one there is around secure restore. This is a restore demo that Nathan's going to be running you through, where we can scan a backup for any malware or any virus before you restore back into production, because the last thing that you want to do is reinfect your production environment and your network. So there are three key areas around how we can detect, prevent, and restore from an attack. It's going to be giving you a bit of an overview now of the lab that we're going to be running you through, or Nathan's going to be running you through. So we've got a production VMware-based hypervisor here. We've got some Veeam components as well. So we've got a Veeam management server, your control center. We've got Veeam proxies. We've got a Veeam repository. And as I mentioned before, we've got the immutability function turned on. So that enables you to back up your data to this Veeam repository, which is just some disk-based storage in your data center. Once backups are stored on those repositories, they're immutable. They can't be encrypted by ransomware. They can't be modified. They can't be changed in any way. Obviously, you can restore from them, which is the most important thing. But also protects you against things like malicious insiders as well, or rogue admins that may potentially want to cause some damage. We're also taking copies out to cloud-based storage as well. So we connect straight into object-based storage technologies such as S3 and Azure Blob Storage. In our lab, we've got an S3 bucket that we're doing regular backup copies from our on-prem data center. And we integrate with a feature on the S3 bucket called S3 Object Lock. This enables you to, or enables us to, again, lock down your backups once you send them to cloud-based storage as well. So you can apply immutability in your data center for your backups, but also in cloud as well. And in this demo, we've got a WannaCry ransomware attack that Nathan's going to execute. It's going to encrypt a file system on a virtual machine, and then which is going to basically render that virtual machine as down, it's unavailable. And then Nathan's going to show you how we can quickly recover that virtual machine back to a point in time before that attack took place. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Nathan, who's going to be running you through the demos and the simulated attack. Cheers.
As technology evolves and we continue to work remotely, it is crucial to ensure that your organization's data is well protected from any external cybersecurity threats. In 2021 alone, ransomware attacks rose up to 93%, and affected organizations have paid at least $170,000 of ransom and faced 35% data loss on average, resulting in a total cost of $1.85 million. Ransomware in 2022 will continue to adapt to technology advancements, and it can happen to anyone. How can you protect your company from being vulnerable to it and ensuring minimal loss? What do you do when you face a ransomware attack?
Thanks for that, Tim. Hi, everybody. My name is Nathan Goss, and I'm an Inside Systems Engineer for Veeam. I'm going to be taking you through a few restore scenarios, as well as how to configure your immutable backup repositories, and go into a little bit of detail on the detections and alarms. So I'm going to be using two tools today. The first is the Veeam Backup and Replication Console. For any existing Veeam customers, you'd be very familiar with this. For anyone who's not familiar with it, it's our control center. This is where you configure your backups, manage your backup infrastructure, and do your restores. The second tool I'm going to be using today is the Veeam One Console. This is our advanced monitoring, reporting, and alerting tool. This plugs into your virtual environment. You can also monitor your physical machines, and this is where you set up your detection and alarms. So within this console, there's some pretty cool features. So what you can do is right-click on any of the virtual machines, and you can actually run some remote operations on those machines directly from this console. So whether that's powering off or rebooting. Another thing you can do is actually open a console directly from the Veeam One Console. I'll go ahead and do that. So obviously you don't need to remote in or use the vSphere console. Okay, so here we are. We've remoted into this Exchange server, the Veeam EX01. As Tim said, we have some malware in the form of a WannaCry virus on this system. And I'm going to do something which you probably never want to deliberately do, but I'm going to run this script. And essentially what this is going to be doing is encrypting all the files on this virtual machine. So if you are presenting any services to your end users or your customers, then it would effectively, be offline. See, this is probably where you'd probably have a bit of a oh no moment and start to freak out a little bit. Soon we'll get a pop-up, and essentially what this is going to be telling us is what we have to do to get our data back. Here we go. So it's saying what's happened. Can we recover the files? Yes, we can, but you're going to have to pay. It's even got a link here to pay via Bitcoin, and it's got a bit of a time constraint on that as well. So if we actually have a look at the file system on this machine, we'll see that all of the files are now encrypted with this WannaCry prefix. And even if I try to, rename, that file, So even if I try and rename that file, get rid of that WannaCry prefix, yes, and then try and open that, we'll see that all the information contained within that file is gibberish because it's all been encrypted. So what we can do now is go back over to the Veeam Backup and Replication Console. Obviously, if you're a Veeam customer, you'd be able to recover from this without having to pay that ransom. The first recovery I'm going to show you is Veeam Instant Recovery. So you'd right-click on the virtual machine. In this case, it's a VMware virtual machine. So we'll select vSphere. Obviously, select the virtual machine. We're going to restore it to the original location. Obviously, the existing virtual machine is encrypted with WannaCry, so it's completely useless. This secure restore I will come back to. You can give it a reason if you'd like. And obviously, you've got the option here to connect the VM to the network, as well as power it on after restoring. So we'll go ahead and click Finish. It's just telling me that the original VM still exists, but we'll obviously overwrite that. Okay, so what this is doing now is the way instant recovery works is we will it spins up a temporary full functioning virtual machine, and what it's doing is it's presenting the data contained within the backup repository in the form of an NFS share to the ESX hypervisor. So essentially just mounting that virtual volume from the backup. And it's a way to essentially spin up that virtual machine in a matter of minutes rather than potentially sort of hours and days depending on what product you're using. So as you can see here, it's taking us through the process. Publishing the backup files, updating the config, and removing the original VM. As we can see here, this console is now sort of refreshing. I'll actually go ahead and close that console down. I'll close that for now, and we'll head back over to the Veeam One Console. Let's try and reopen a console to that virtual machine. Oh, still, there we go. I'll reopen that console. And now we can log back into this virtual machine. There we go. Oops. While we're just logging into that machine there, I'll take you back to the Veeam Backup and Replication Console. So essentially what it's saying here is that the instant restore has been successful. It's mounted that the backup data to the virtual machine. We should be able to log in shortly. Another thing you can do as well, once it's been mounted, you are actually able to right-click on that machine there and migrate it to production. So what the instant restore is, it's bringing up a temporary machine. Your users or your customers will still be able to use that virtual machine as usual. They'll be able to make changes, modify the data however they'd like. And like I said, yeah, you're able to migrate this virtual machine back into production. So once that's ready to go, you'll be able to remove this temporary VM and you'll be back up and running as usual. All right, so we're back in. So as you can see there, it's, it took a couple of minutes, but it's a very powerful feature being able to recover quickly. As you can see, we're sort of back to where we started. And yeah, that's the instant recovery feature. So the next feature I'm going to be showing you, or the next restore, is the secure restore. So again, we'll go back over to the Veeam Backup and Replication Console. Here we've actually got a little SharePoint virtual machine that we've set up. I'll go ahead and right click on that, instant recovery again to vSphere, select the virtual machine. This time we're going to restore it to a different location. I'm going to give it a unique name, so let's say restore. Okay, so this is where we select secure restore. So essentially what this is doing is it's going to run an antivirus scan on the backup data before it's recovered. And like Tim said in his presentation, your backup is your last line of defense. So the last thing you'd want to do is, restore a virtual machine that's infected with malware that's, essentially just going to put you back at square one. So what we'll do is we'll select that. You've got the options here to proceed with the recovery, but not connect it to the network, or you can abort the VM recovery altogether. We're going to select that option. There's also an option to scan the entire image. We're also going to do that. Again, you can give it a reason if you'd like, and same sort of summary as the instant recovery. We'll click finish on that. So yeah, again, what this is doing, this integrates with your antivirus software. In our case, we're running Windows Defender. This will come up shortly just with essentially the logs to show us the progress. Yep, there we go. So as you can see there, Windows Defender is scanning the Veeam SP01 virtual machine. It'll take roughly sort of 30 seconds, but we've actually planted some malware on this system for the sake of the demo. So that should find that shortly. There we go. So as you can see here, malware has been detected on the X drive. What this is going to do, it's actually going to scan every volume in this virtual machine. So there's another few volumes here. So for the sake of the demo, I will show you one that I ran earlier, which is here. So as you can see, overall it takes 12 minutes to complete. Obviously, it's got to do that antivirus scan. So it's a little bit slower than the instant recovery, but still pretty quick to get that machine back up and running and be sure that it's not infected with malware. You can see here it scanned the other volumes in the virtual machine. There was nothing detected on the C drive, and as we set up, it's actually aborted the VM recovery. You can actually look at the scan log as well. So this will give you a little bit more detailed information in terms of what file or files were detected. So as you can see there, the files on the C drive in this ecar.com file was found, and obviously nothing on the C drive. So that's the secure restore feature. The other feature that I want to show you was the immutable backup repositories. So as Tim mentioned, we support on-prem immutable repositories as well as cloud S3 immutable repositories. So here is a Linux immutable repository that we've set up on-prem. I'll take you into the properties. If you're setting this up from scratch, the wizard is still the same. So you obviously give it a name, give it a description, point it at the repo server. Okay, here it is here. So you can see that there's an option here to make recent backups immutable. You can do it for a period of time. So typically, if you want to restore from a malware or a ransomware attack, you'd want to restore to the most recent version. So we'd select 7 days for the on-prem repo. And as you can see, it protects the backups from modification by ransomware or hackers. Obviously, if there's a malicious insider or rogue admin that has root access to this repository, obviously they will be able to make changes. So you still need to make sure that you've got a robust policy management policy within the business. So we'll go ahead and select that and finish. So I might just cancel out of that. So that's as easy as it is to set up the Linux immutable repository on-prem. And as Tim mentioned in his presentation, we also support S3 object lock with AWS. So we've got an immutable repository set up here. Again, give it a name, give it a description, provide us with your credentials. And this is obviously just confirming with AWS. Cool. All right, so here again, we've got obviously the data center, the bucket. So you'd set this up prior to configuring it within the Veeam backup and replication console. Again, you've got this option or this tick box here to make backups immutable for a certain period of days. Yeah, obviously this would be your archive tier, so you can, probably have that for, a little bit longer. And again, it's going to protect the backups from modification or deletion from ransomware hackers, as well as malicious insiders. So, obviously that could be a rogue admin or just a pure accident. Somebody's accidentally deleted the repository. And what I'm going to do now is actually attempt to do that. So we'll go back to our backups. And here we've got this tiny Veeam VM that we've backed up to our Linux immutable repository. So if I right click on that and try to delete this from disk, yes. Now, because we've defined that, 7 days, I actually ran this backup this morning. So this is going to essentially just run through the process of deleting this backup. And there you go. So it's come up with an error, just saying unable to delete this backup. It's saying that the backup can be deleted after that period of time that we've defined when we were setting up the repository. So again, another powerful feature there with the immutable repositories, making that your backups that last line of defense and really hardening those repositories just to ensure that hackers or even malicious insiders can't do any damage. So the last feature I'm going to show you here is the detection and alerting. So within the Veeam One Console, you can right-click on any of these virtual machines. We'll do our little Exchange server here. Go to Alarms, select Define Alarms. And essentially what this is, obviously you've got a whole host of different alarms you can set up. In this case, we're going to do the possible ransomware activity alarm. So typically when you're under attack by either ransomware or a virus, we will see certain spikes in areas of the environment. So that would be your CPU, your disk I/O, as well as your network traffic. So what you can do with these alarms is essentially set thresholds. So what we've got here, at 70% CPU utilization, we're going to throw up a warning, and at 80%, we're going to throw up an error. Now, what this is, it's just an alert. So it's, obviously there might be a workload that's peaking that. Essentially what it's there for is to just highlight that there is, high utilization on that virtual machine, and that you should probably, be aware of that and pay some attention to it. You can set up notifications as well. So you can email it to a group, a specific user, or any of these other options here. Again, just to, alert you of a possible ransomware activity. It's not necessarily saying that there is one underway, but it's just to highlight the fact that there's high utilization on that virtual machine. So that's it for the demo. I'll pass back over to Tim, and thank you for your time.
Great, thank you, Nathan. As you can see, very powerful in terms of all the recovery features, all of the ransomware protections that we have in our platform. So again, you don't have to pay that ransomware. You can just restore, continue business, and get back up and running, and most importantly, reduce that downtime. So what I'd like to do now is I'd just like to wrap up the webinar by going through a series of, give you a series of links that we have available. From our website, we have some ransomware assessment kits, so you can get more information about some of the topics that we've discussed today. We've got some education as well. So again, you can read up and get more familiar with the features and functions that we have in our platform as it relates to ransomware. So with that, I'd like to thank you for all your time this afternoon, and we'll open up for any questions now.
Hi all. So yeah, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat. We have some questions already coming in from the attendees. So the first one here is it preferred to back up to tape or back up to cloud? Look, the recommendation and best practice as it stands today is to back up to some cloud-based storage to reduce cost and to also introduce some flexibility into your data protection strategy. The second question we have from out there from the attendees is what type of storage is required for immutability to work? And it's a good question. So to do immutability within your data center, you require some Linux-based, you require a Linux-based system to provide immutability, and any type of storage will suit that. So from a Veeam perspective, we're software defined, so any type of storage that you have in your data center will work with the immutability as long as it's based a Linux-based virtual machine. Another question we have is, does Veeam integrate with Glacier inside Amazon? And yeah, it does. We support S3 and all the various tiers within S3 storage. We also support Glacier as well natively. So we can move your data from your on-prem data center, as long as you're using Veeam, of course. We can move that to S3, and then we can lifecycle that to Glacier at a later point in time. Another question we have is, does Veeam support Azure for immutability? So yeah, so as we went through the presentation, we do support S3 object lock for immutability if you send data out to the cloud. In regards to Azure, we don't currently support that, and we're going to support that in the next version of Veeam in version 12, which is due to be released the second half of this year. Okay, another question we have is, how do we scan malware for virtual machines? So obviously, we're not a security-based company. We integrate with your antivirus product on your endpoints, on your servers. So we deploy some antivirus software on the Veeam server, and obviously then the antivirus product does the scanning on our behalf to find any potential malware on the backups. Just seeing if there's any other questions. So in terms of how does Veeam achieve logical air gap? So you can achieve air gap through the use of tape. Obviously, tape is an offline copy of your backups and your data. That's one way of achieving an air gap. The other way is putting in place that immutability feature that we talked about. Because the immutability, once the immutability feature is turned on and enabled within Veeam, then that's essentially giving you an air-gapped copy, because your data can't be encrypted by ransomware. It's locked down, but obviously can still restore. So that's, again, another way of air-gapping your backups with Veeam. Okay. So another question we have is, does Veeam have a solution for ransomware protection solutions for images, certain verticals like healthcare, media, communication, geo images? Yeah, essentially, obviously from a Veeam perspective, we can back up any type of data, whether that be image-based data, unstructured, structured databases, for example. So as long as you have the immutability feature integrated within Veeam, whether that be in your data center or leveraging S3 object lock within the cloud, then we can lock down any type of data. So that data can't be encrypted by a ransomware attack. It can't be deleted by a potential rogue admin. So yeah, any type of data we can protect from a ransomware protection solution perspective. Okay, so another question we have, which is quite a good one: can we move virtual machines to the cloud with Veeam, and also vice versa? So yeah, absolutely. Again, because Veeam, we're software defined, we work with any public cloud. As we talked about before, we work with the big three: Azure, GCP, and AWS. So we can take backups of your hypervisors on-prem. We can store them there in a safe and secure place with the immutability function. We can then move that data to the cloud as well, and then do migration. So we can convert for example, a Hyper-V or virtual machine system, or even a physical system in your data center. We can migrate that to the cloud, and we can do a transformation of that virtual machine to the native virtual machine within a specific public cloud. So for example, we can convert a VMware virtual machine into an EC2 instance, for example, and also vice versa. So as we sort of touched on earlier, we do have native solutions that can protect EC2, Azure virtual machines, and GCP. We can then move that data back to your on-prem data center and do conversions back to the hypervisor on-prem. So another question we have, does Veeam offer storage services, or does it only offer connection to a pre-existing storage service? Yeah, so we do provide storage as a service through our partners. So we have what we call Veeam Cloud Service Providers, which can provide storage as a service. So you may have your own, a single on-prem data center with all your servers and your systems and your applications. You can leverage that as a service storage as a way of sending your data off-site and, in sense, giving you that storage as a service outcome. And as I mentioned before, we are software defined, so we can work with any type of storage. We don't have an appliance as such as it relates to backup. We can work with any type of storage within your data center, or we work with any public cloud storage, or even through a managed service provider through our VCSP program. Okay, so another feature, sorry, not another feature, but another question we have out there is, are there any additional licenses or optional licenses for any of the features that we've discussed today? The response to that is no. So all of the features that we've discussed today, they're part of the core platform. There's no additional license costs there. There's no additional options to purchase. All of these features that we've talked today around immutability, instant restore, secure restore, data immutability, it's all part of the core platform. There's no additional licenses. So another question we have is, it's my understanding that Veeam at this stage can't do backup from Microsoft Office 365, running a full Azure cloud domain till later this year. Look, from an Office 365 perspective, we do have a solution that can protect data within Office 365. You can deploy the Veeam Office 365 solution natively within Azure, within the Azure IaaS cloud. You can also back up to blob storage, for example. So we do support Azure cloud as a destination for the Veeam software. So another licensing type question we have is, what's the pricing model for our software? So we provide what we call instance-based licensing. So the benefit of that is that all you need to do is license Veeam based on how many virtual machines you have, how many physical servers, and you just buy the appropriate instance licenses, and they come in 10 packs. So for example, if you have 100 virtual machines on-prem, then you just get 10 packs of the instance-based licensing, and that license is also universal. So you don't need a license specifically for, based on workload type, for example. So we don't have a license for physical, for virtual, for applications, for cloud. It's just one license, and then you basically back up the data where it sits. Okay, just trying to see if there's any other further questions out there. I think we've covered everything off. Yep, I think that's about it. So yeah, we might wrap it up there. So yeah, on behalf of myself and Nathan's time, on behalf of myself and Nathan, thank you for your time this afternoon. It's really appreciated, and hopefully it's been informative in terms of what we can do around ransomware and how we can detect, protect, and recover from a ransomware attack. So again, thank you.